without further ado, I think it's time to get to our first segment of season 3, a fan favorite weekend recap.
Weekend recap.
Just a quick clap for John.
I'm so
standing out.
Great
Tip the cap to the crowd.
Jesus.
So weekend recap. If you're just joining us for season 3, where have you been? But weekend recap, we go over some of the games from that week. We get to talk about it. Danny Football, what's the first game that you want to talk? We're going to talk about.
I think we should touch upon the old hometown boys, the Patriots. Nice little grinded out win over the new Las Vegas Raiders.
It was a great win from the New England Patriots. I think we kind of talked a little bit about this before the show. It's definitely, we've seen over the last couple of weeks, it's a typical Bill Belichick strategy. Every week is different. Every week has a different strategy to win. They're not dependent on Cam, all phases of the game. They're not a passing team. They're not a rushing team. They're whatever team, the defense that they're
Against
playing.
the Dolphins, it was we need Cam to go off. Against the Seahawks, it was a shootout with throwing. And then this week, it was more of a ground and pound style with all the backs getting their share.
Right. And I think we saw that exactly with Sony Michel had a excellent game rushing the football. He had over 100 yards.
Yep.
And on 9 carries. Rex Burkhead, big game for him. He had 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. 49 yards exactly rushing and receiving, which is kind of ironic. We had a great game. The thing that I kind of liked out of it was J.J. Taylor, the rookie undrafted. 11 carries leading all backs. His speed really is I think something that they're going to utilize going forward. And I just love this Patriots team. I love everything about it. It's a new breath of fresh air. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do going forward.
Especially with J.J. Taylor. I felt like he really sparked the running game in the second half. First half, we came out kind of stagnant, a bunch of 3-and-outs, kind of ball going back and forth. Second half, Bill puts him in. Gets going, he's running downfield, he's breaking tackles, he's getting those yards. And I almost feel like it inspired Sony to really pick it up. He's been quiet, especially last year, disappointing year. I think seeing the rookie get open, get downfield, and get some yards kind of inspired him to pick it up and get 117.
Well, especially J.J. Taylor, I think, is taking advantage of the opportunity he has. Thoughts and prayers with James White and his family. But when James White has been out, I've seen J.J. Taylor kind of take that spot. So Rex Burkhead as well. He's kind of taking a little bit of that pass catching.
It's definitely giving guys more reps than they wouldn't have gotten.
Exactly. But the thing that J.J. Taylor has that these guys don't have is speed. He's youth and speed, and they're definitely taking advantage of that. The other thing that I'd like to point out that was huge was the turnover differential. 3 turnovers to 1. Those 3 big fumbles, 1 resulting in a touchdown. Defense, once again, is helping to win this game. And the offense staying on the field was huge. So defense getting stops, getting the offense back on the field, that was pretty stagnant in the first half. And now resulting in even getting scores is huge for the New England Patriots and huge going forward.
That's probably the biggest surprise to me with this team so far through 3 weeks is that this defense, maybe not as good as last season, but it's still holding up and still keeping us in ball games and winning us ball games. Considering Hightower is not there, Chung's not there, we're missing a lot of key parts.
Van Noy,
especially leaving in free agency, opting out with the COVID. And I said on the last pod I was on, it was up to all these young guys to step up, and that's really what we're seeing. We're seeing all those young pieces, Winnow especially.
Winnow, I was going to say, has been and we said going in, Winnow is going to be one of those big pieces for them.
I called for him to get the depoy, so Defensive Player of the Year is still within reach. But
he's having a great start of the year.
Absolutely.
And also Dietrich Wise, too. Stepping up big for the New England Patriots. I think it's those 2 guys along with the rest of the defense. It's of course McCourty's going to do well, is great in the secondary. Gilmore, everyone, they do great. But those 2 guys that were kind of had big moments that they had to step up this year, they've answered the call, and that's the reason the Patriots are 2-1 so
and that's
far.
what helps you win these grinded out games. If your defense is going to stand on their head, pound the rock, control the time of possession, control the ball, and you're going to outlast teams like the Raiders, who aren't a horrible team. That's a quality win.
They're now 2-1, but they were 2-0 going into the game against the Patriots. They took Darren Waller out of the game. Darren Waller was, and I said that going in,
You did warn me to take him out of my lineup.
Danny Football asked me, should I play Waller or
Goddard?
Either one didn't really work out for me. But Waller, I said, he's not that fast, so Gilly was probably going to lock him up, and they did. They took him out of the game.
A lot of different looks at him.
Yeah, they took him out of the game. There's, especially on that team that doesn't have a lot of, Ruggs was out. They have a lot of injuries on that.
Hunter Renfrow was their leading receiver.
Hunter Renfrow is, could be a potential waiver pickup of the week. Could be.
But we'll get to that.
Foreshadowing.
We'll get to that.
Foreshadowing.
We're not going to give you that for free right now.
Podcast. But they took Waller out of the game. He's the number one target on that team next to Jacobs.
Absolutely.
And
Jacobs had a quiet day.
They took him out. That's what Bill does. Bill knows how to take
If you want to beat us, it's going to be with your other guys.
Right.
You're not beating us with your stars.
It's going to be like with Renfro or these guys that are no names. They're going to have to be the ones that beat you. So that was a great Pats win. Very happy with it.
2-1 heading into Kansas City now.
And anything can happen.
Absolutely.
Anything can happen in Kansas City. Another game worth noting. I mean, there was a lot of bad games this week.
Not a good slate.
Not a good slate.
Entertaining games, but not so much standings wise.
One that's probably worth noting is the absolute collapse of the Falcons. Like coming off of, I was looking at the Cowboys loss last week, 2 weeks ago. This week blew another big league.
20 points in the fourth quarter.
To the Bears.
To the Nick Foles led Bears.
But let's be fair to the Bears. Off to a hot start from the Bears. 3-0.
The most deceiving 3-0 team I've ever seen.
I can't believe it. And they did pull the plug on Mitch Trubisky a little early in this game, if you ask me. He did have the one interception, had a touchdown. But they were winning at the time.
I feel like they were looking for a reason to yank him.
Yeah.
And they just took it. As soon as they saw that opening, they're like, all right, let's get Foles in there.
And you know what? Nick Foles, he was pretty good. Pretty darn good. 3 touchdowns. Didn't really get the passing yards. But they got some studs on this team.
Allen Robinson, 10 receptions, 123 yards, huge touchdown in that game.
If you're a fantasy football guy, Jimmy Graham looks to be, Nick, at least at the beginning,
huge
Nick
weapon.
Foles.
Huge weapon.
Foles is number one
Absolutely.
target. Anthony Miller got a touchdown. Like, they spread the ball around. The one negative for them, Tyreek Cohen out with the season
that was
with an
huge.
ACL injury.
Another ACL injury, man.
Terrible. But David Montgomery, who was just traded away in one of our fantasy leagues for, pennies?
Bag of footballs.
David Montgomery's no joke either. So I'm excited to see what this team does for the Bears. For the Atlanta Falcons, 0-3. Do you think they start to blow it up?
0-3 is a really deep hole, man. I mean, maybe not yet, but definitely 0-4, 0-5, you're kind of packing in at that point.
They're getting dangerously close right now. I mean, to be fair, they did not have Julio Jones in this game. But the young kid, stud Russell Gage, he was non-existent. Calvin Ridley had a great day. Todd Gurley had a pretty good day, 80 yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Hill had a touchdown with 58 yards. But
Matt Ryan doesn't deserve this, man. Someone please save Matt Ryan from this organization.
Does he come to the Patriots? Possible guy leaves the Falcons if Cam Newton goes out.
I'm not going to
guy.
Unlike Noah, I'm not going to ship Cam Newton out after one bad half. But hey, if Matt Ryan wants the job, I'd definitely hear what he has to say.
No, and to be clear, I love Cam Newton, and I would love to see him in a Patriots uniform. See how this year goes, but I'd love to see him next year. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think he's going to.
He's definitely playing himself into a big contract. So far,
so good. Not like Noah, as we said. Chef Noah wants to ship
him
out,
shipped out after one half of football.
even though we gave Mitch Trubisky 4 years. But I digress. Falcons need to figure it out because they're dangerously close to blowing that whole thing up. And I think the other game that at least I thought was worth noting was not really two big name teams, but the Panthers-Chargers game.
Teddy Bridgewater gets his first win as the starter down in Carolina.
And I think what was nice to see was Mike Davis had a pretty decent day. He only had 46 yards rushing and 45 yards receiving with a touchdown, but 8 receptions. He's kind of stepped in, and he's not doing Christian McCaffrey stuff, but he's
keeping you in the ball game,
keeping you afloat. And Teddy's nothing special,
game manager,
but he's a game manager. And they managed that game against a young unexperienced quarterback. But
Justin Herbert came to play, man.
He is
330 yards and a touchdown. He came to play.
He's another guy that's kind of like it's kind of like Joe Burrow, who I hope doesn't get stuck on this franchise, because it looks like they're not going anywhere. And also they don't have doctors that know how to.
I don't know how a team doctor doesn't know how to administer a shot to a football player at this point.
How crazy was that
Your
story?
Your own player, and you puncture his lung.
I don't know
how that happens.
How does that happen?
That would never happen in New England. Imagine Tom Brady when he messed up his finger. Imagine if the doctor just accidentally cut his finger off before the Jaguars game.
That'd be insane.
And he's walking out there with 4 fingers trying to get us to the Super Bowl.
He'd still get us to the Super Bowl.
He probably would, let's be honest.
But it's unbelievable. Like, that's the craziest. I think that's the craziest football
Charger's
story.
Charger's going to charge her, baby. Charger's going to charge her.
Justin Herbert, though, the last 2 weeks he's balled. He's been really
He's
good.
been ready. He's been absolutely ready.
And they had a chance to win this game. Chargers definitely had a chance to win.
Do you want to break down that hook and ladder?
The hook and ladder. Shout out to Brian Kamish of the Brought to Rocks League. I feel bad for him. He took the Chargers in Survivor Pool and had Austin Eckler, who got a fumble on this play. But last play of the game, Justin Herbert hits a nice the hook and ladder play. I forget who was the guy he threw to in the.
I think it was Allen.
Was it Allen?
I think it was Keenan Allen.
Keenan Allen had a day, by the way, 132 yards and a touchdown. Seems to be with 13 receptions. Seems to be the number one target for Justin Herbert, because he wasn't doing this with Tyrod Taylor week one. And Phillip Rivers to an extent, but last year it didn't seem like he was that.
It was Allen,
huge.
yes.
It was Allen. So they hit Allen over the slant with the hook, and then Allen lateraled it back to Austin Eckler, who missed it. They fooled the whole defense out.
Wide open, man. Nothing but
touchdown.
Daylight. Nothing but
daylight. They just make that play. That's a game-winning touchdown. Justin Herbert gets his first win, and that's all she wrote. But I'm not like the Falcons with this team, even though they're 1-2. They should be 2-1. They got some pieces on this team, man, to make a run at it. Hunter Henry, Austin Eckler, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They're like, go down the line.
It's definitely a team that if they go on a run, they can definitely get a playoff spot.
Absolutely. And they got the guy. Justin Herbert seems to be that.
He's the guy. He's absolutely the guy.
I think they can go on a quick run. I think that pretty much does it for weekend recap. As we said, not too many.
Cowboys and Seahawks had a shootout. Packers, Saints had a shootout. Cardinals choked to the Lions.
Worth noting to the Seahawks, 3-0. Russell Wilson is the future favorite to be the MVP.
This franchise right now.
He is the MVP of the season.
Oh, 100%.
Hands down.
100%.
14 touchdown passes in 3 weeks.
The man, he could have had another one if DK Metcalf didn't fumble through the end zone.
Yeah. John, do you want to say something, because you have Russell Wilson in every league?
He's a 3rd-round draft pick. That's all I'm going to say.
You're absolutely insane.
I'll say something for DK, because since last week everyone was kind of getting on him. Straight lines, score points, win games, baby. That's all I need out of DK.